Today's video is all about Injective. The future starts here. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking into some of the fundamentals, such as the team, the tokenomics, the utility, and the overall value proposition, trying to figure out whether this project has what it takes to make it to our portfolio. So you know what? Let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunity. And of course, the question is Injective an opportunity? The future starts here, guys. We are looking at a project that right now should be trending and is definitely an interesting one, given the fact that the trend in the market currently is definitely in line with their main value proposition. We see a lot of good things happening here. We have Binance, Jump, Google, Pantera, Galaxy, and a few others, and this is the thing here, guys. We have to be looking at this project from a lens of what's happening right now in the market. The most current trend in the case is at this current moment is the real world asset narrative, the tokenization of assets, and Injective is definitely following in that direction. As we continue going down, guys, I want to make sure that we understand that we're going to be doing a deep dive, and we're going to be taking a retail perspective here. We want to make sure that the team has all the fundamentals clearly described, and ultimately all the information that is necessary for us to become fundamentally bullish. Guys, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to be using the main website as our platform to navigate the project. We're going to be going through all kinds of different documentation and different sites to really gain an edge here as to, is Injective worthy of our capital? Okay, guys, so let's continue going down. Let's see what they got to offer for us here. Right away, you can tell the website is nice and cleanly designed, which I appreciate. We got some good tabs up here, which we'll talk about in a second. Let's just continue coming down here and trying to scroll through this. We do have customized for individuals, developers, and institutions. So clear, target markets here, separated into three parts. The individuals, which is the retail, you and I type of thing, the developers, individuals that are here to build on Injective as an L1 and build applications and so on. And institutions, the institutionalization of real world assets particularly does offer a good opportunity. So if we kind of go and look at what the individuals be early to the future, programmable, interoperability, lightning fast, near zero gas fees. This is okay. They're describing their blockchain built for finance. That's the whole concept behind it. Injective for developers. Let's see what they got. If we click here, we have plug and play modules. We have multi virtual machine, so ready to go with WASM. They have a couple others. Let me just click here. Obviously, EVM compatibility, which is around the corner, and the SVM into an integrated network where interoperability is key. So we have to understand that this is really good. Basically, being part of Cosmos makes it a very interoperable play already, but EVM compatibility is going to bring up a whole new world, and they have that in the pipeline at the current moment. We also have lightning fast, low cost, unified liquidity, and unmatched developer support. They do have a lot to offer for a development perspective. If support isn't just an option, it's a guarantee. So by doing this, they are focusing on ecosystem growth. They have realized, or they do realize, that with developers on board and focusing on building and helping to build their ecosystem, ultimately the use case and incentive to hold Injective is much higher. So this is where we're at right here with this. I appreciate this because a lot of projects don't really focus as much on devs, although they should. And I feel like there's a bit of a shift lately where a lot of L1s are realizing that that's the case. Ecosystem growth is what keeps the project buzzing. Institutions. This is an interesting one because we're seeing a lot of institutionalization in the last little while. given that, especially with the tokenized stocks, with the ETFs, and all the other little instruments that are coming through from traditional markets into the crypto space. So powering institutional grade finance. So we have two tokenized solution, like I just mentioned, the real world assets, compliance made simple, white labeled financial modules, lightning fast, low cost. That's across the board, whether you're an institution or an individual, whatever the case, developer. The fact that it's lightning fast definitely brings that value. Borderless finance, interoperability. I'm assuming that's what they're talking about. Or even from the geographic perspective, we know that ultimately, cryptocurrency has no border. So that's that. Institutional grade liquidity. That's interesting because Injective offers the world's first shared liquidity layer connected to some of the most renowned institutions. So here we are. So either you agree with institutionalization or not. There is something for you here with Injective. The reality is, though, when we're talking about finance, the biggest leap that we are currently seeing is the institutionalization of a lot of these players in the crypto space. And there's twofold here. One is, having the TradFi, environment, or TradFi players come and play in our sandbox, which a lot of us, don't think of that as a positive thing, which we'll leave it at that. There's both positive and negatives in this case. And then there's also the idea that by intertwining the traditional economies, the traditional finance, TradFi, with crypto, crypto has the ability, if it does have an edge, to be able to attract liquidity out of the traditional finance markets. And I think that is a major, major opportunity to have an easier or less resistance, less friction opportunity to get that capital into the crypto space. Okay, so that for me is an interesting thing. We got a lot of good information here, guys. This is a well developed little carousel or whatever you want to call it. It's so far so good. Lots of information here for you. Let's continue going down. We see the world's leading financial institutions work with Injective. So we have Firebox, Galaxy, Hex, BitGo. Okay, that's that. I'm wondering what happens when we click this. What else do we have? Start here. So they have developers. So it looks like the whole page kind of changes based on that. That's pretty cool. Build with confidence, integrated infrastructure, endless tokenizations, a new standard of liquidity. Okay, you can see EVM for developers, operators, advanced, and start here. So lots of good support, guys, for all these individuals. I'm more interested in individuals. Why? Because individuals, what they mean by that is retail, right? Retail like you and I. The story of Injective. Check it out, guys. It's 4 minutes long. It might be very entertaining. At least give you a backstory of the lore behind Injective. It might, give you that, sense of understanding. True ultrasound money for the new internet. That's the thing, too, guys. We really have to sit back and think about what the internet represents nowadays, right? It's an environment. It's a digital environment of where we have an identity. We spend a lot of time in this digital environment. We also have now with AI an expanded identity in the sense that we have an identity that's even more valuable, right? Like the actual individual now is competing with AI in almost every single way. And being able to differentiate between an individual and an AI is such a big idea that ultimately we start to think, okay, if I have I'm an individual in this space and in this environment, how do I interact? And of course, money is the way majority of us interact, even in real life. Being able to transact and be able to send value through action and activity, right? So here we are. We have a true ultrasound money for the new internet. The reality is, okay, we're developing a new internet from a back end perspective, from a deep pin infrastructure, all of that. We get it, but ultimately, we're also reinventing the way we do money, right? The way we send value. For me, that's a very important, because what we're saying here is an Injective also provides that opportunity. INJ powers Injective, the new era of finance protocol revenue across the ecosystem to gather into a single basket, auction off weekly. Guys, we're going to talk about this because what they're really trying to say, because really this little title right here is kind of small in comparison to the rest. Guys, we have to understand that there's a tokenomics thing here that needs to be spoken about. And usually on a website, especially on a landing page, there's not really much talk about this technicality. So I'm kind of happy that it's there, but I would have loved to see this to be a little bit more emphasized and explained, maybe. You can see that you can burn Injective. So Injective doesn't have a max supply in the sense that it's infinite. and tokens can be minted and issued into circulation. And that's usually a case when you have a large L1, especially when it's an infrastructure type of scenario, right? Where token, you don't want to be limited by the amount of tokens that you have. You want to be able to maybe put it through the DAO, through governance, and perhaps increase the total supply for whatever the case may be. The interesting part is that those projects need to have some sort of burn, or else inflation will eat it alive. Inflation will dilute the actual value of the token. So what we want to see is a healthy balance between new tokens being minted and tokens being burnt. And in this case, what they have is an interesting approach, which is I don't know what to call it. I don't even know what they call it, but basically it's an auction. It's an auction where a bunch of projects that are built on Injective contribute to this basket of tokens. Okay, not coins. We're not talking about injectives. A basket of tokens that are tokenized for those projects that are built on Injective. So they put it all into a basket, and basically what happens is the one that offers the most injective to buy that basket wins the basket. However, the amount of injective that is offered to obtain that basket gets burnt. And this happens periodically, weekly, auctioned off weekly, which means that basically the highest bidder claims the basket, and the payment in injective is immediately burnt. Which means that we're technically permanently removing injectives from circulation, and at the same time stimulating ecosystem growth by allowing those projects to gain some interest and some hype and some marketing and some eyes, mind share, and all that good stuff. So it's a win-win situation, not only from an economic perspective, maintaining that balance between supply and demand, right? That's obviously very important from a tokenomics perspective, but we're also stimulating the ecosystem, which is something that I find also very important, because you're basically investing in the utility or the use case of Injective in addition to that. So for me, that's amazing. This is actually one of the most interesting burn mechanism that I've seen so far. So kudos to that engineer who could figure this out, because it's not only from a economics perspective, but it's also a little bit of marketing that can be applied here. So pretty good stuff. As we keep on going down, whatever you need, it's on Injective. So we got dApps, different chains. So let's just quickly go through this, because I don't want to leave this page though. That's all they got is this view more. What happens if I click it? Let's see. Oh, it takes me to a new page. Okay, so let's leave this ecosystem tab. I already have it open, but you can see they have different chains, infrastructure, institutions, wallets, validators, exchanges, and much, much more. We're gonna go through that a little bit. I don't want to get into too much detail there, because they do have a lot of different projects working with Injective. It's not necessarily that they're like completely isolated to the Injective ecosystem. There's a lot there, like different oracles and things like that, and wallets that are cross-chain and things. We'll talk about that. We'll definitely look at that real quick. They have a blog, and I'm happy to inform that the blog is fairly active. A little bit more would have been awesome, more current, but nonetheless, it's fairly active. And they don't have an official dedicated roadmap that I was able to find. Guys, if you were able to get your hands on a roadmap, feel free to let me know in the comments section. But I couldn't get my hands on one. I couldn't really find it. And usually when you see a DAO or some sort of governance, in which Injective does have, a lot of the times the roadmap is not clear or not provided, because we're waiting on proposals and voting to actually dictate where the project is going next. And in addition to that, they have this blog that they keep up to date. Look, they're talking about their latest adventure, their latest focus, and it should happen any day now, is to actually make Injective EVM compatible live on the public testnet. So this is what we really want to see. Not only testnet, because that's what they have now, but mainnet, to make it active, where this is a thing that can be done on mainstream or a mainstream Injective, right? So this is what we want to see in the next little while, which will enhance its interoperability significantly across this space, given that we know that EVM is the largest virtual machine in this space. So Whether you like Ethereum or not, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's the adoption that a lot of people have embraced for EVM. Okay, so let's continue going down. I like the fact that we'll take a look at the blog in a second, see how it looks and so on from a marketing perspective and socials perspective. Join the revolution, become an ambassador if you're interested in that. Go ahead, kickstart a better financial future, create an Injective wallet, get Injective, bridge the assets, stake Injective. Okay, so very typical financial thing where you have all the typical staking and all that kind of stuff. Different events, more blog posts on or spaces. This is just, X posts and stuff, which they are very active and engaged, which is pretty good. From a social perspective, we definitely need to see that buzzing. Their revolution has started. Are you in? You got a lot of socials to be able to connect through Discord. They're both very active. The Discord and the Telegram is very, very active. So I'm not very, very, but they're quite active considering where we are in this current market. We're slowly waking up here, and we're getting a lot of action. And it's nice to see that Injective is getting a piece of that action at the current moment. And it's part of this real world asset tokenization narrative, led by other projects right now, and very institutional type projects as well that are leading the way. And Injective could definitely keep up and attract some of that capital as market cap does enter into that narrative, the real world asset tokenization narrative. Okay, so it's about how much can Injective actually grab of that cash or that capital that is coming in to that narrative. Okay, so good stuff here. Overall, website 10 out of 10, looking pretty good. Lots of good information, lots of research ability, learning, and so on and so forth. So what I did do is I went through all of these and I kind of focused on the major pages that might be useful for individuals, not so much developers, because we're not going to get technical here. Remember, this deep dive is about crypto, and it's not just about the tech stack and all of that. And to be honest, it requires sometimes to study a tech stack, it requires quite a bit. So we're going to try to be very retail friendly here so that we understand from a retail perspective, why are we looking into buying Injective or scaling into it. Okay, so let's get right into some of the other things they got here. What I like is that they have a learning page. Not many L1s offer this, and I think more than ever, I think it's necessary that L1s on their website dedicate a page for learning. Learning is an opportunity for onboarding. Learning is an opportunity for stimulating mass adoption. Right, that's the one thing that people like the marketers need to understand, is that if you can educate an individual about what the industry is doing, and then obviously Injective should have the solution to some of the problems identified into what's happening in the industry. Maybe that's a way to say, hey, Injective, I'm interested, right? Because now they're educated, they understand the value proposition. So in this case, you see Injective Hub, an intuitive platform that brings staking, bridging, and more into one space. Okay. And then you have the tokenomics, which we're going to talk about in a second. They have a full-on page there dedicated to tokenomics. So we're going to do our best to kind of scrape through the important parts there, because the page in itself should have been written in a Git book. I'm gonna show you why in a second. And I asked programmable real-world assets. Okay, cool stuff. So this is very important stuff. What's happening today? This tokenized assets concept, and then different guides of, again, their blog posts and so on. Lots of good information here. Builders for developers, financial innovation, again, more education regarding that. The blog, the press, so a little bit of communication here, and education is great. Socials once again, and so on. So I like that page. Guys, I would spend some time there and digging through it. Okay, so let's talk about their tokenomics and the actual documentation that was dedicated to the point that this PDF is called Injective Tokenomics Paper. Now, for me, one of my biggest issues is that, okay, it's May 2024. Things since then has changed. And this is what a Git book would probably help with. Like, this is a very static document, which can't be changed very easily. Whereas with your Git book is like a website. You just log in and you kind of like do your thing, and it gets updated very easily digitally. And it's easy to search. It's easy to, navigate through the document and so on. So this is a very traditional, overly traditional in my opinion, and it doesn't give it an edge from a clarity perspective. For example, once you're going through this, you'll realize that it's very in depth. And it's a great thing to have an in-depth documentation, but from a retail perspective, it's nice to have a a suitable platform to be able to understand exactly what's happening. So let's just make it clear. The utility behind Injective, it's a medium of exchange. So it is used as a default asset to facilitate the purchase of sale of goods and services. So it's like a currency. Okay, that's basically what they're saying. And also, there's staking capabilities and so on. And being able to stake allows you to help secure the network. And by staking and helping to secure the network, you are going to get rewarded. You have governance. Again, if you hold Injective, you're able to participate in proposals and voting. And if you are able to meet the requirements in order to vote and be part of the governance, then great. And if not, there's things that happen with the tokens that you have. We'll talk about that in a second, how that mechanism works. Right here, maybe they get into the burn. Mechanism, a novel burn auction system. So that's the auction system that we talk about, the burn mechanism. And even with the proposals, there is a bit of burn happening there if some requirements are not met. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a second. Supply dynamics. This is also an important one, and I tried my best to be very clear when I do the review or the summary at the end of the video, guys. It's in the timestamp. I get it. You can go straight there and refer to it. But I'm going to review this and try to do it in a very simple way, right? Because it's very complex. As you can see, this could be very not retail friendly. Okay, so I did go through it. I did try to digest it all, and I'm going to do my best in a second when we get into the whole concept of how do the tokens actually get released, because there is a max supply, and there's a nice balancing act that happens in relation to bonding and so on. So we're going to talk about this in a second, okay? A lot of this is too hard to explain based on what they have to offer here, and I believe that a typical retailer will much appreciate a simplified version. So I'm going to do that. So the deflationary mechanism with the burning and the auction, we already talked about that. You can see that the auction and so on, the burn, it's all right in there, and we did summarize that already. Exchange module, okay, auction module, again, dynamic economic. You can see that this is it's a very intense, article here. Now we get into the interesting part. Okay, so at Genesis, which was 2020, and I'm going to tell you this. You know how many projects don't even give Genesis dates on their documentation? Which is, I know it doesn't sound like it's important, but it is. It is, because you want to know exactly where they are in distribution. Good to know is that Injective at the current moment is completely distributed. All tokens are in circulation, and there's going to be a little bit of that variance of between circulating supply and total supply and max supply, given the fact that it is a dynamic system that they got here. And you'll understand this dynamics, like, again, when I review their distribution, how tokens are being issued into the market. We already know how they're being burned to counterbalance that, but the issuance is a balancing act that we're going to talk about in a second. So at TGE, we see that we had a seed sale at 6%, private sale at 17%. We had a Binance Launchpad sale at 9%. We have the team going on here at 20%. We got the advisors as another 2%. My biggest issue here, okay, and it's not the biggest issue, because, sorry guys, if we were gonna have more, let's say, in clarity, a little bit more clarity as to the current holders of the token, like the wallet distribution, it might give us a little bit of sense. But I tried to look for the wallet distribution to see which wallets are the main holders, and no scanner was I able to find some clear information. It's not like Etherscan, where I was able to find nice clarity on the Injective scanner. So what I'm saying is, number one, if you guys know of a place on the internet where I can find this information about wallet distributions, I want to see the top 5 wallets, and I want to see who they belong to, and I want to see, if they belong to the team, and I want to see if they, who's holding a good portion of the tokens. This is so information. This information is so important, given the fact that all the tokens are in distribution, but look at the imbalance at the beginning at TGE. You got to admit, early stakeholders are holding approximately above 50% of the token in distribution, but that was in 2020. But the vesting schedule, did take some time and fully unlocked by January 2024. So by 2024, and beginning at 2020, there was about 4 years of distribution. And then at the end of the 4 years, given, let's make everything stable, everything constant, all these individuals did not sell, the current tokenomics should be highly imbalanced towards early stakeholders, which encompass, again, all these ones right here. These are all early individuals, seeds, private sales, launch pads, the team, and advisors. These are early stakeholders. That bothers me. And I don't know where the wallet distribution is. Like I said, I couldn't find it. Maybe it's a lack of my part, but it's not the point. The point is the regular retail investor shouldn't have to be a private investigator to find this information. It should be clearly defined on the documentation, or at least some sort of scanner that has that information. Very, very important. Okay, so this is where we're at, guys. We're trying to find clarity, and unfortunately, although I like Injective, I wish I would have had that information to present to you guys. Again, I'll do an update if I do get any more information in days to come, because ultimately that's super important. So you can see they had the vesting schedule, but right now that's not important because we're all fully diluted anyway. So done. And you can see this is where we at, little by little distribution had happened. You can see the bigger amounts. I don't even know why this is in black and white, but that's whatever it is. Yeah, as you can see, it's even hard to read. Get book, guys, and get up to date here. I think notable upgrades and parameters, significant events, and so on. So the burn auction again was released in 2023, and there's a little bit of details about what how that works. Governance parameters, minimum proposal deposit. That's what I was talking about before, where there's a little bit of a burn happening here. So when you make a proposal, you have to have 100 injective, proposal voting period for 4 days, and then you can see there's a little bit of a quorum, and then the threshold, and then vote options: yes, abstain, no with veto, okay. And then what happens here, if there's a scenario where these potentially could get burned, okay. So this is important. This 100 worth of injective could get burnt depending on the minimum not being met, okay. So right here, if 33.4% of the total votes is not with veto, quorum is not met, or a minimum isn't reached, and then the deposit will be burned. Okay, so a little bit of a burn there. All that pressure, all that pressure on minting is definitely has its counterbalance for burning, and that's why you might see that little discrepancy in tokenomics, circulating supply versus total, and that's what we're kind of seeing right now. It's literally like 99.9 or something like that completely in circulation, and that's because of the burning that happens weekly. Okay, so keep that in mind. Here we are. The bound rate. So this is an important one. How mint module. I want to get into this. They're repeating it again. So what they're trying to do is gold bonded percentage. Just keep this in mind. I'll repeat it again, but when we try to simplify, the gold bonded percentage is 60%, and depending on the bonded goal, if it is achieved, if it is below or above, that will define whether more tokens will be minted or not. So again, it's all about keeping this gold bonded percentage. As long as the bonded percentage is achieved, there's no real reason to mint any new tokens. However, if it falls below, we start minting. Goes above, we start not minting, essentially. So we have to understand that they try to keep it balanced, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get there, as we get to the summary. And that's about it, guys. The deflationary effects, and you can see tokenomics was well done. Some considerations, future outlook. Again, this was written in 2024. The future is now, according to this page, so it's kind of outdated. They got some references and good stuff there. Okay, so not bad. At least they have some clarity, but some update and some modernization here would be definitely useful. Okay, so let's move on. Let's take a look at their ecosystem, because I like looking at this. Now we got to ask ourselves, unfortunately, Injective now falls into this trap. where they have a bunch of logos. We have a Google Cloud, we have Binance. Now, I don't know if you feel like this is a valid statement or not, but for me, it is. When I see Google Cloud, I don't look at it as a partnership. I don't look at it as a part of their ecosystem per se. They have a node that is listed or that is currently being hosted on Google Cloud. Now, it's not their only node. There are many other nodes, but I guess as a pin of secondary security, if you want to call it that, they got a Google Cloud node that is always there as long as the bill is paid, and that's the way it works. Okay, so Binance, another one. Do they have liquidity on Binance? Are they listed on Binance? Yes, they are. Did they go through their launchpad? Most likely. Incubator program, perhaps. And here we are. We have them on the list. Is it part of their ecosystem per se? A great relationship, good, awesome. But I would say maybe not. You know what I mean? We got to be really critical about their strategic partnerships here. Upbit again, Bybit again. Like these are Gate. Are these all partnerships? Gemini. I can most certainly say these are not partnerships. Part of the ecosystem, maybe, maybe not, until you know, especially with exchanges, guys. That for me is BitGet and so on. These are not. So we try to really. What are the strategic partnerships that are going to help Injective get to the next level? So, what I did try to do is summarize those as well. And we can see there's DeFi, different categories, right? Uniswap, again, that's an EVM, a DEX. That's the main DEX for Ethereum chains, right? Injective is not even done with their mainnet upgrade to EVM compatibility yet, and yet we have Uniswap listed here. So this is where things start to fall apart for me as far as a trust factor. I'm not sure what is an actual partnership. Are they literally partnered with Ondo? I don't know, how does Ondo fit in their ecosystem. And if you click any of this, you're going to just go to the Ondo website. It's not like you click on it and it takes you to a blog post describing what the partnership and relationship is all about. See, that bothers me. It's better not to have it, because then it's like the boy who cried wolf kind of thing. Too much, too good to be true, and then it starts to bother me because how much value are these logos really, right? So it dilutes the value of the actual partnerships or relationships that actually are strategic in value. Okay, so apps and tooling, again, a lot of overlap. I've been seeing Mito here already 3-4 times. Let's get rid of these. Google Cloud again, institutions, apps, EVM. I've been seeing a couple here. Okay, this is another one that I've been seeing a while. More dApps, Helix, of course, their DEX. Why not? Yes, it is good. Obviously, it's part of their ecosystem. 100% Helix is there, and that's good. That's definitely one. Connected chains. So is this part of their ecosystem? Yeah, it's an external ecosystem. Ethereum coming soon. Near Protocol, BNB, EVM, Avalanche, Solana. These are up and coming. These are big chains. And these are chains of which we want relationships with. So this is valid, right? To see the EVM compatibility opening up the ecosystem capabilities here for Injective. So definitely true. So valid. A lot of good stuff here, guys. No doubt. Real world assets. I'm more interested here. Let's get rid of the EVM chain. Let's get rid of the chains. You can see we got stablecoins. Are these partners the ecosystem? Okay, maybe. Look, it all depends on how you define ecosystem. I don't define this as an ecosystem. McDonald's, I don't find that's not for me. Just because you have a tokenized asset for McDonald's and where else, Tesla and all, they're not part of the ecosystem per se. They're just product offerings on your exchange, which is or your tokenized asset. Interesting, no doubt, but I don't know, guys. It's all about definition, and for me, it's not much there. Okay, so good stuff. But again, you have to really redefine and reposition what ecosystem means. And if it fits your definition, great. And if it doesn't, you just got to be critical and scrape through all of this, and you'll realize that their ecosystem in itself is fairly solid and it's stacked. Okay, we'll talk about some of these in a moment when I summarize. Okay, so let's continue moving on. We have the Injective scanner. which doesn't give much information. We'll let that load. We have the bridge, we have governance, right? So governance is another one that you might be interested to see, all the proposals and the voting and all of that. Very transparent. Look at all this, pretty good stuff. We have the auction burn, the basket of different tokens and the burning and this and that. So you can see it's very active, well established, nicely organized. Clear, clear, clear. You got the staking options right into here. Look how beautiful it is. This is great. And then the wallet, connect your wallet and you can check out your assets. So nice DApp right here as far as Injective Hub, offering a lot of utilities, right? And then if you go into the scanner, like I mentioned, I wasn't able to find, like usually on a scanner, you say, okay, I want to see the wallets. I want to see which wallet, top 10 wallets, who are they and where do they come from? Are they the teams and this and that? Does the team still hold a lot of the tokens, given that over above 50% of the tokens were held by early stakeholders? I want to see those wallets. I want to see how much they're holding today. And without that transparency from the team and the foundation and all of that, things get, kind of get a little bit hectic here. So again, I would like to see that. Retail is looking, and they shouldn't have to be private detectives to figure it out. And auction burn, we talked about that. We talked about this. Injective blog. Okay, interesting. Again, but let's jump right into their marketing aspect, right? Their socials and so on, because the tech is straightforward, right? It's part of the financial DeFi play, real world asset, tokenized assets. This is not a new narrative, but it's it is right now running hot, which is good. And then we have to ensure that they're keeping up with communications and marketing, because there's some major players nowadays that are putting in a lot of effort, given that, again, there's institutional money coming in, right? So we need to be focused. Now, you can see we got September 14th, today's date, and then we move on and say, when was the last post? July 24th. 6 minute read. Was that the last one? It seems like it was. Look, it is a little bit older, or do we have yeah, July 24th, this one right here, July 17th. They're focusing on the first injective ETF filing with the SEC. Guys, this is where we're going. This is what I'm saying, the institutionalization. So we got the ETF filing, we got the EVM, and then the trust that is, they raised a bunch of money. So we'll talk about all this when we get into the social and the news and all that kind of stuff. But you can see that right now, at least this platform is here to potentially act as an alternative to a roadmap, because the roadmap does not exist. I couldn't find it anywhere. So what we have to do is rely on this type of communication. And to be honest, I would even prefer this to be structured as a roadmap. Some blogs I've seen successfully put a calendar here and put in particular dates and objectives that would like to be achieved at that time. But of course, you run into an issue there, because you don't want to be specific to the date, to the hour, to the minute of when, for example, the mainnet of EVM compatibility is going to come in, right? What if you miss it by an hour or a day or a week, right? Engineering is not like that, guys. Sometimes there is delays. The problem is that retail doesn't understand that, and the problem is that retail gets emotional. And then the problem is that retail starts affecting the chart, and that's not a good thing. So I understand the reservation to be dedicating to a specific time and date, but at least a little bit of an idea of where they're going with things in the next little while, from a capital perspective, both you know human capital and obviously economic capital. So here we are. Blog, well established, nice and clean, fairly active and kept up to date. I think they're due for a post any second now. Okay, so let's take a look at their X. X, nicely established. They have over 500,000 followers, which is beautiful. Nice, strong community going on here. Pineapple Financial. This is where I was going to talk about. They were able to raise some good capital here. Has officially completed its 100 million capital raise to purchase Injective. So this Pineapple Financial is one of the many funds that are currently raising capital to buy particular tokens. This is how we're integrating different projects into the traditional finance space. This is a MicroStrategy play right here. Potentially just building Pineapple in such a way that it's a big holder of Injective. And if you basically want to have indirect exposure to Injective, you just buy some Pineapple shares, and that gives you a direct reflection to the Injective price. This is an easy way to gain exposure for traditional individuals in the financial space to gain exposure to Injective. Is this good for the space? This is a huge area of debate because I really an individual like myself that has been around for a while and a big proponent of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and full custody and decentralization and all that kind of stuff would say, well, this is not a good thing. We should be educating people to feel comfortable to get into the core instrument, which is Injective, rather than finding a third party instrument that is highly intertwined with traditional finance to basically give you that access to Injective. Why are we now doing that? Now we're bringing crypto into traditional finance instead of the other way around, right? We got to bring traditional finance into crypto, not the other way around. Some may argue that. Some may argue, you know what? At least they're getting exposure to Injective, and if the fund keeps on buying Injective, all good. Demand keeps on outperforming supply, and price go up. I get it. I get it, guys. It is what it is. You got to make your decision. We're in a very different time right now in the crypto space where we're seeing institutions trying to gain their fair share of the action. Okay, so that's an interesting post right there. You see a new weekend to relax. Of course, no relaxing here in this crypto space. We're always action. Prediction markets are quickly becoming one of the hottest industries, and now Injective is bringing them on chain. Interesting. 22 hours ago, so we're seeing a little bit of that action happening to prediction markets. Well, I don't know what to think about prediction markets. Is it like gambling, you think, or what is it? Like, I don't know, guys. I'm on the fence about that. If that should be if there should be a space for that. We have Helix markets, Injective, their decks, pretty cool to see some of that action happening there. What's going on here? We have Injectives, real world assets, perps reaching some good volume, so we're doing good there. Some action, so good communication, dynamic smart contracts. I'm not seeing anything about EVMs yet. This real world asset concept and the raising of that capital for Pineapple right now is taking over their page, which fine, it's so super bullish, but still, I want to see where they're talking about the EVM, where they're talking about the major opportunity for their tech stack to essentially. This is good. Korea's largest financial media channel, they interviewing this dude right here, the face of Injective, which we'll talk about in a second for sure. Recap, okay. And again, I'm not seeing anything regarding EVM, and I would love to, but yes, it is here. So I did see it earlier on. I would love to jump upon, just drop on it and be able to show you exactly what I'm talking about. And all you see is pineapple stuff. Yes. Oh, right here. Today is a great day to try out the Injective EVM beta ahead of public main launch. It costs $0 to get started. Link in the bio. So with the rate now, there is no clear date as to when this is going to go, actually get implemented into mainnet. But right now you have beta and testing and all of that. So it's around the corner, guys. It's around the corner. This is a bullish catalyst, no doubt. But you can see right now it's being overshadowed by other things that actually got executed. Okay, so pretty good stuff. This is good. Keep it in mind. We got a lot of good days to come for Injective. Now, as you can see, there are some third-party websites that I kind of look at to get some reassurance or secondary information. As you can see, we have the team right here. This was the vesting schedule. Just quickly go backpedal a little bit. Fully diluted, as you can see, completely unlocked, ready to go. And then that's that. We got markets fundraising. They got early fundraisers, lots of good capital earlier on. And this and that. We have something that is undisclosed and jump and this and that. So lots of capital early on. Like I told you, the early investors, early stakeholders, I want to know where they're at with their holdings, right? So arbitrage, analytics, historical news. Okay, let's take a look at the team for a sec. So we got Eric, co-founder. We got Albert, another co-founder, and then we have some team members, general counsel. We have marketing. We have head of business development. We have head of product, and all very talented individuals. Okay, so let's take a look at them in a more detail. I usually go on their LinkedIn. I'm fully doxed. That's awesome. And I'm seeing more and more projects lately, because I've been doing a lot of deep dives, guys. I'm almost at 120 different deep dives. I release one once a week, so you can see that I've collected a lot of information, a lot of data through doing these deep dives. And lately, I've seen more and more projects become fully doxed, which for me is bullish because you have nothing to hide. And especially now in today's environment where we see, governments and institutions becoming accepting of crypto, there's nothing to hide. There's no real reason to hide, just everything to be bullish about. So we have about 105 associate members, a part of Injective. That's a huge team. And that's just the ones that are listed here. There's probably more. We can see that they're spread across the world, right? Mostly in the United States, but there's a lot more happening in India and Nigeria and so on. Uh, Good studied individuals, lots of talent. And if you just scroll through this, you can see the different titles, right? We have business, we have business development manager, marketer, injective, head of treasury markets, business, head of research. And I'm not even looking at their name at the current moment because they're there, as you can see. I'm just looking at what kind of talent do we have here. Marketing again. We have head of talent, head of product, innovation, business. Okay, partnerships. Awesome. You keep on going down. You're gonna see a lot of different avenues. Co-founder Eric. We'll talk about him in a second. Community manager, software engineer, ambassador, helping individuals, general counsel, so a lawyer. We saw him on that page there. That's good. Blockchain, Web3, recruiter, people operations. So there's a lot happening here. Strategy, an injective, general partner. Let's see what else we have. Business enthusiast, lots of business, crypto accountant. Well, that's interesting. Full stack developer, senior software engineer. Here we going. Like we have a lot of diversity in their skill set. Albert, we're going to talk about. We have head of marketing, talented, lots of talented individuals. You even have Web3 content creators and social media ambassadors here listed. So we got a lot happening here, right? Civil engineer, crazy, lots of good stuff here. Okay, so stack team, lots of various talent. They even have an in-house medical doctor ready to go. So that's interesting. Now, if we keep on going on and we start looking at these individuals, a little bit more in detail. Now, I would say that Eric is the face, and he's been doing a great job as being the face. He attends conferences and different events, which is great to have a solid face for any project. Okay, so right now that's what I think his main focus is. But when I start looking at who he is as a professional, as an individual, just watch some of his videos. You'll get him. You'll understand a little bit of what he's about from a personal perspective. But what about on paper? On paper it doesn't really always matter, but it's a good sense of what his strengths are, and maybe even weaknesses. But in this case, he's the co-founder of Injective Labs. He's a capital investor, and there's another venture partner, Innovative Capital. It looks like he is just a businessman. He's a venture capitalist. That's what I'm getting from it. And if you go down, okay, there's nothing else other than that. I don't see. Am I missing something? Maybe this is not up to date. Maybe this is not, something that he polishes as far as who he is. He doesn't keep his, but I would highly suggest he does. Because at the current moment, I'm not getting any edge off of his qualifications or his experience, other than that he's a great face and a great personality person for the job, which is leading Injective as a public figure. So we'll give him the thumbs up for that with that regard. But yeah, I would like to know a little bit more about his background. Now, as we move forward, we have Albert. Albert is the CTO at Injective Labs, and this is where things are a little bit different in the sense that he has a full-on, description about what he is, and it starts to get, powerful here. So, co-founder, Injective Labs. He's Tendermint. Interesting. Software development engineer, Amazon. Interesting. Consultant, Open Zeppelin. Guys, if you know who this is boilerplate action for EVM compatible chains. Perfect. Full stack software engineer, amazing. And at this point, I'm expecting him to be very young and so on, and starting off his career and slowly gearing into cryptocurrencies and such. Bullish, okay? And there's more, but we don't need to get any more. It's great, good stuff. Stanford, computer science, Bachelor of Science, computer science, artificial intelligence, concentration. Guys, there's nothing more. Like, this is it. And you can see he has other Korean Studies Association, Stanford Gospel Choir. This guy he's everywhere. He's doing a lot of different. He even posts his extracurricular Stanford Bitcoin Club. Like, if there is going to be a team member to handle our back end, this is it. Albert is great. So young, strong talent, ready to go. That's how I look at it. Then we keep on going forward. We have marketing. um, Bullish, Tesla and Samsung, big companies. And from a marketing perspective, it doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be specialized in blockchain. Obviously, that is useful. But you can see if we start, we have Tesla and so on, and Samsung Electronics America, bullish. That's what she put there. But as you keep on going, you see, manager product marketing, led marketing launch materials, and ran concept test research for Vcoin. So this, what is this? A cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency available at 2 million monthly active users. So this is where she brings her, comes in with her crypto journey. It's about 4 years long, which gives her enough experience to understand the industry and perhaps dedicate to the industry. So marketing plus a bit of some experience in a very young industry, which 4 years is a lifetime in this space. And then here on Injectives, and working with the director as a director of marketing in Injective Labs, which is also part of the Injective umbrella. So overall, bullish, good stuff here. Again, more youth, more young strategy, more initiative, all of that happening there. The team is good. Okay, so overall, guys, we can see that we have some good prospects here to lead Injective to the next level. All right, guys, let's take a look at that summary. As you guys know, I do summarize this deep dive in a nice infographic. I'm going to make this infographic available to you guys on all the socials, so make sure you guys go check that out. Let's begin by just doing a quick review by some of the main headings. Ecosystem. There's lots of dApps, okay? Lots of things happening. So we have Helix, Helix meaning their DEX, Hydro Protocol, Neptune Finance, many others. We got Sonic, which is a gaming. We got Pith that is integrated into their as an oracle here, because we know that Pith, from a financial aspect perspective, or a DeFi perspective, it does offer the speed necessary. So Pith has been, a project that we've seen peppered throughout a lot of L1s. And I keep on saying this, guys, that Pith is right now probably one of the oracles that are flying under the radar in a big way. So keep your eye on Pith and what they're building and who their relationships are, because it could be a bullish thing. There's lots of partners like Coinbase, Institution, Google Cloud. These are partners, but more like relationships or integrations. Right? I'm not very keen on calling Google Cloud a partner, because anybody could deploy a node on Google Cloud. It's not an exclusive relationship that I would say very strategic, right? So we also have, BitGo as a validator, Republic tokenization. These are interesting, but they're part of the infrastructure, and we have to be able to define whether they're strategic or not, okay? And then we have like ecosystem portals and stuff like Injective Hub. Like, that's great. That hub is amazing. The only thing that I would love to see is their scanner improve, so their Explorer. So Inject Scanner, INJ Scan, has their governance and their validator and their and so on, transactions and auctions and things, which is great. But I couldn't find anything related to the wallet distribution, like the current wallets, the top 10 wallets. I want to see where those tokens are lying at the current moment. Couldn't find any information. Again, guys, if you do know where I can find that to see their wallet holdings and wallet distribution, feel free to let me know, and drop a link in the comment section. It does help out the community. It does help me out. It does help everybody out. And again, guys, being part of the community is how we get through this market, with a little bit of certainty. A roadmap. Guys, there is no official roadmap, but I have to be very, very careful, because their approach to a roadmap is not like, it is like many others, right? They don't use a particular roadmap in where they have a page that says we're doing this by this date and so on. but they do have a blog that does define a lot of what they're focusing on in the last little while. As long as they keep their blog current and maybe structure the blog so it resembles, a time based thing, so that we can get an idea of where they're going with things. I've seen that implemented by other projects and it did work successfully. But not having a vision or having a road map, literally a map towards where they're going, leaves us just following them behind without any understanding of where we are actually going. That is, a level of uncertainty that I don't like. However, at the same time, because it's DAO and there's governance happening, we have to understand that the community does, define what the roadmap is. And because of that, a lot of the times roadmaps are hard to implement. DAOs introduce a level of a complexity in the sense that, it's slow, and things are not really clearly defined, in a very good way at the initial. After things get voted on and all of that, there's a lot of clarity, but still, this is what I'm focusing on, is a little bit of clarity as far as roadmap goes. Right now, major concepts is the that have been achieved or being buzzed about: the pineapple financial, the treasury now equals $100 million of capital raised. Amazing. EVM beta, when mainnet launch, we don't know when that's going to happen. It's going to happen any moment now. I think that's a bullish implementation, and we're still waiting for some clarity as far as the roadmap goes there. So I am going to give it 9 out of 10, although they do not have an official roadmap, but their blog does a fairly good job at it. So I'm going to say, if you want to just continue following their blog to get what they're going on, and coupled up with X, obviously, you should be safe. Now, I think that having a little bit more information there on the blog might be useful. They haven't posted in a bit. The team is a large team. It's a huge team with lots of talent from various aspects. Lots of support in different industries, which is great. Now, we know that the CTO is fully equipped with experience and education needed. We define that very, very clearly. In my opinion, that is something that we can remain bullish on with from a tech perspective. Now, Eric is a strong face for the project and has been doing a great job being the face for Injective. And so far, that, in my opinion, is his main value proposition. Obviously, he may bring other attributes to the table, but according to his LinkedIn, I couldn't find anything else other than that. Okay, so it is still at a 10 out of 10 team. I think it's great. They got the youth on their side and the aggression that brings to succeed on their side. Socials, they got a lot of followers on X, guys, with moderate engagement. They could get a little bit more there, considering that they are currently in a buzzing narrative. They should be pushing full force, and I do see a bit of effort, so we'll give it to them on that. Telegram and Discord is active with a great community happening. I was able to get in there. I asked a few questions, just clarification questions, because as I do research and if I feel uncertain about something or a little bit iffy, I just want to hear and get a second opinion. And they were willing and ready to answer. Great community there on the Discord. Blog is well kept and up to date for the most part. They are due for a post, like I said, or else it's going to start to get outdated very soon. So 9 out of 10 there. Tokenomics. So tokenomics are interesting. Why? Because they're a fully distribution. My only problem is that early stakeholders ran through 54% of the distribution. Now, because it's all out there, it's all in circulation. I want to be able to track those wallets and see where are the tokens being held at the current moment. And unfortunately, I couldn't find any tool, any on their scanner or anything that gives me that data. Again, maybe it was my lack of being able to find it, or whatever the case may be. But if you do know, let me know in the comment section below of where I can find that information. Altcoins are in full circulation. Burn mechanism to offset reward and inflation. We talked about that, the burn mechanism significantly. And we also we're talking about the relationships. They got institutional ones. They got NFT marketplaces like Rarible integration in 2025. This is one of the hottest things. And then Republic Launchpad plus wallet support. So we got lots of good things here that are actually relationships that are happening now and that are a little bit more less they're a little bit more low key, but I think they're a little bit more valuable than just putting those big logos up without real strategic relationship status, in my opinion. So for me, this is an 8 out of 10. Let's clean up the relationships that they got there, the ecosystem. Let's clean it all up, make it well defined, take it as an educational opportunity to educate people what the relationship is with Google. What is that relationship? And they have a node on Google Cloud, Google services, which is great, but is that a strategic relationship? I don't know. Does Google even know that that's the case, that they have a node running on their cloud storage system? I don't know. I'm not going to judge, but at the end of the day, that's what I mean. Okay, so 10 out of 10. Whoa, let me go back there. Sorry, guys. 10 out of 10 there. We have exchanges 10 out of 10. Now, what I do like to see with the exchange aspect of things is that eventually we have to understand that, all projects are trying to achieve this, to get listed on all the exchanges, have liquidity everywhere, Binance, Coinbase, you name it. Guys, Injective has reached that goal. It's literally everywhere. Is it an opportunity, or is it an opportunity? I say no. It's no longer an opportunity. Why? It is a sense of security, no doubt. That to be very liquid that way, you can jump on any of these exchanges and trade it if you want to, which is makes it very liquid, which is awesome. But from an opportunistic mentality, guys, there's no exchange listings to pump your bags in the upcoming days. That's the reality. It's already listed on all major exchanges. So it is what it is. Okay, so you're not going to get that as a catalyst in the next little while. And there's people that strategically, trade exchange listings. That's not going to happen here. It's out there. It's well established. It's matured. It's not getting delisted at this rate. It's a very strong project and people love it. So, guys, that's what it is. So as you can see, tokenomics are as such. The volume has been great in the last little while. I think, I think the narrative and what they're offering is amazing. Almost 8% of its market cap in volume in the last bit. And I think when I got this volume metric, it was leading into the Friday, so it could have been a little bit, dampered a little bit. So that's that. The ticker INJ price right now, of course, there's a little bit of fluctuations over the last 48 hours, 24 hours since I started creating this, but we're right around that level. Market cap's 1.4 billion, and as such, you can see everything is pretty much in circulation and infinite supply. Okay, so let's talk about some more little details before we talk about what exactly do we expect from Injective in the next little while. Okay, so obviously, it's a DeFi, L1, real world assets, IBC. So we're talking about interoperability for Cosmos and that whole boilerplate. Soon we should be able to put EVM compatibility here and introduce a whole new level of interoperability. Again, I might have already said that here, but that's that. Governance. So more of the burning, we discussed this, 100 injective minimum. If deposit period ends without meeting the threshold, the deposit is burnt. Okay, so another addition to the burning mechanism that we talked about, which is the auction burn mechanism, where a basket of tokens get bidded on using injective coins. The winner pays the injective, and those coins get burnt. The injective gets burnt, but they still win or get to that basket of tokens. The tokens are belong to different projects that are built on the Injective network. And like what I mentioned before is I appreciate this because it stimulates the ecosystem. It stimulates the projects that are built on Injective. I like that idea, right? It's good for marketing. It's good for user engagement. It's for many reasons, right? Transactions and volume and so on. So this is good. This is definitely a good way of a burning mechanism. It's very creative. Let's put it that way. Moving change emission rate. So let's talk about this a second because I know I kind of skimmed through it a little bit and I found their documentation to be a little bit complex with all the mathematical and physics happening there. So I'm going to summarize it here in a simple way as possible. So their emission rate, because it's a max supply, we have to understand that tokens will be emitted over time. The supply rate adjusts each block based on the gap between the actual bonded and the goal. So basically increases if under bonded or decreases if it's over bonded or stays flat if equal. So the gold bonded has to be about 60% of injective staked. If 60% of the injective is staked, then we're good. So it stays flat. If it falls below or falls above, that will define the emission rate. Okay, this is important because if it falls below, we will basically see a decrease if it's overbonded and an increase if it's underbonded. So if it's underbonded, we're going to increase the emission rate. If it decreases or if it falls over, it will decrease. So in this case, we try to keep equilibrium at a 60% bonded rate, if this makes sense. So it's a dynamic emission where it's very hard to have a projection as to what the decirculating supply is going to be, because burning could be increased, and in this case, emissions could be increased and decreased, and a lot of things are happening to keep the supply in a healthy, uninflated position. Okay, so this is how that works. Now we also have to understand that there's implications here, because when the market doesn't do well, I don't anticipate their emission to do very well, right? I'm curious as to how we would see their emission rate respond when we are in a bear market, and what kind of fail safes we have for reducing the amount of emissions when the market in itself is in a sell off. So I'm curious as to what's going to happen, what the DAO is going to do, what the community is going to do to kind of like help in this scenario, because we know that at the end of the day, with governance, a lot can happen and be changed and modified as the market structure changes. So keep that in mind. And the gold bonded is 60%, as I mentioned. Wallet distribution on mainnet is not clear. That's something that kind of bothers me, and I try to dig around for at least 20 minutes, and it shouldn't take me more than 20 minutes. I know if I jump on Etherscan, I can find it in 10 seconds, less, right? And I can find the wallets and everything I need and so on. But on a white paper or somewhere, I should be able to see all the team wallets and all the wallets that are associated to all early stakeholders in full transparency, and I should be able to see those wallets on chain. If not, there's not enough clarity there, and that's a problem. Okay, so injected with the market cap of Ondo. Now I'm gonna keep this a little bit vague, or how can I say this? Just to keep the, take this as a grain of salt. Why? Because the reality is I believe Ondo's just getting started altogether also. And based on that, is it fair to say that Ondo's current market cap is going to stay where it is? And should we be, basically comparing Injective with Ondo from that perspective? Well, I'll tell you this, from a tech perspective, 100%. Definitely comparable. Like, in the sense that they're trying to tokenize real world assets, get into the DeFi market and in financial markets, and be an L1 for finance. I get it. Perfect. And Ondo's going to go in the same direction. Good. But what I'm saying here is that as capital increases, as we see the total market cap rise, given that this real world asset tokenization narrative is so hot nowadays, how much capital can Ondo achieve or extract from the total, or attract? And then the question is, of that same pool, competitively, how much can Injective attract? Now, that's important, because as we see the total market cap rise from, we already saw it rise from 2 trillion to 4 trillion, where we are today. Do we get above the 4 trillion and hit 10? I don't know, but I'm telling you this. I believe that there's going to be a major battle between projects like Injective and Ondo and Say and many others that are part of this narrative, trying to attract their own portion of market cap. And because of this, I feel like Injective will either trail behind Ondo, uh, trail alongside Ondo, flip Ondo. It doesn't matter. It's not the point. The point, I think that they're both going to eat. They're both going to do very well. And it all depends on how much capital flows into the total market cap, and then depending on how much the real world asset tokenization narrative will be able to attract of that. And I think that Injective and Ondo have a good chance within themselves to do much better. Like even Ondo right now could still, from here, from its current stage, could even still do a 5x. And I'm saying Injective, just to catch up to Ondo, is gonna do a 2.5x. So why couldn't Injective also do a 5x or even more? This is the reality. It all depends on how much capital comes into the space and how bullish this tokenization concept is. So I say this, guys. I'm saying, okay, let's say Injective does a 5x, it's going to hit about $70. I think that's a modest, I think that's very fair. I am not, talking Moon Boy, the financials, tokenomics, the whole thing. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. There's some little things that need to be tidied up here, but I can see it attracting a lot of investors, including institutional, retail, getting all over this. In the meantime, we have to let Ondo do its thing, because I think Ondo right now is pulling a lot of the baggage with it for the narrative, but Injective is going to be right behind it, attracting its own capital. So far so good for the space. So far so good for the narrative and Injective and all the players that got in, building into this tokenized real world asset narrative, because I think that's going to be a big one in the next little while. All right, guys, let's get right into some of these charts, because I know that you're here to talk about some of the price action. So let's begin. Let's see what's going on with Injective. So technically speaking, we're seeing that the overall market at the current moment, right now we're getting a slight pullback. However, the last week, guys, has been really, really great for this space. Not just from a price action perspective, in the sense that we've been getting a lot of green. It's about the structures that it has been forming. The structures are going to give us that setup, and that that setup that includes great risk management and upside potential, and led by Ethereum. Is awesome to see some of these altcoins show strength, basically led by Ethereum. The question here is this: the question is, ultimately, how far do we go with this trend here for Injective? We started the trend right here. Obviously, it's hard to tell without a market structure confirmed. But once we came up here, we made a confirmation low, a higher low, and then we started making more higher highs. Even breaking above this top was a beautiful change of character, where we saw that we were making lower lows and lower highs, and all of a sudden higher highs and higher lows, and breaking above 10.5 cents is what actually gave us that trigger, 10.6 cents. Right? And then little by little, we see that this thing is literally in an uptrend, currently battling the 200 daily EMA. It is still above it, and you can see lots of volume. And it's very likely that maybe we start continuing to the upside. Maybe we go parabolic here. However, we have to understand that on the lower time frames, the issue is that there could still be a retracement or a pullback or a bearish response. And what bothers me is that this is looking very retractive, impulsive move down, retracement. Technically speaking, the bears might want to go for another attempt of another impulsive move down, which means that ultimately, if we do come down, we might have to see an event where we start hunting liquidity at these bottoms, and at these bottoms. The issue is that if we're going to come down, we do not want to break below $6.50. Is as soon as we break that level right here, we start to call this a break of structure. A break of structure would insinuate that the price is going to continue to the downside and potentially, continue for another leg. How low do we go? Who knows? But ultimately, it's not a good thing to see this thing drop. We don't want to see this string drop lower than this, right? This thick white line. We want to stay above here, but down here, guys, forget it. Right? It's like really difficult, because if we start hunting liquidity down here, is it possible? Sure. However, what I would much more appreciate is this. I would much more appreciate a swing failure, a failure of the structure. Come down, come down, not break below here, maybe sweep a little bit, something like that, and then get going again. Does that have to happen? No. But at least we get it out of our system, in the sense that momentum, in that case, will get reset. And obviously, based on that, we can get a little bit of assurance that we're not going to be coming down any further. Right now, as you can see, volatility is really, really hot, and it might be coming down for a bearish response, to the point that we get oversold. Momentum can still go choppy sideways and maintain the current price action, going sideways, maybe coming here, going here, like I said, and still very sideways. But in the meantime, a bearish response could give us an opportunity to buy the dip down here as we hunt the liquidity down here. And that is still very possible. I would say if we came down to $9, that would be a great buy the dip opportunity. Right? Assuming that what we're now trying to do is accumulate down here as best as we can. Right? That's the whole idea. Right now, we're still bullish on the trend oscillator. We got to be real about that, guys. There's nothing bearish right here. The EMA is facing up, green histogram bars to the upside, purple expansion full force, doing really good. It's still looking very retractive, as you can see, but another impulsive move to the upside could bring us out of this run and move to the upside. My curiosity is this. We're going to start a new weekly candle very soon. Asia's coming in hot tonight at 8 p.m. EST. By the way, I'm going to be live during that moment. So feel free to join on the live streams at that time. But at the end of the day, guys, like the reality is this is might be the last few dips and the last few opportunities to scale into the projects that you're bullish on, because these bearish responses, if they start coming in and they do not make lower lows and break structures, BOS, below this, guys, it's just a back test. It's just a dip. It's just a corrective move. It is a swing failure. It is whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, we'll not continue the trend to the downside unless we break below this bottom right here. This would be an indication of an attempt if we fall below $11 and 80 cents, about $12. If we break below there, we can probably say that it's going to be an attempt of a impulsive move, and we want to see the confirmation of that impulsive move fail. We don't want the bears to have enough volume and strength to break below here. That is basically what I'm saying. Now, if we get rid of all of this artwork that I got going on, because it's definitely a distraction, so let's get rid of it, some of this. You know, we can start getting on lower time frames and start analyze really what is really happening here. And when I look at it, I see some great structure. I see, you know, a V recovery and a rounded bottom. And that usually leads me to believe that's a structure where we start to see aggressive buy pressure, market maker price action right into here. And then all of a sudden, right into here, we see passive limit order accumulation, which usually represents a lot more stable, less emotional, less profit taking type of individuals, because they're passively accumulating spot. And they're expecting this thing to eventually break above this top. And they're preparing for that as a confirmation low, higher low, as an opportunity to slowly passively accumulate, anticipating a continuation to the upside. This defines sentiment for me. So what I look at in that here is, even though we do get a pullback, that's fine. As long as we don't break below this level and close daily candles with volume and start collapsing, guys, this is still a great accumulation range in the short term, assuming that you're going to put a stop loss right underneath here and expect that, you know, we're going to move to the upside. The problem is that since here, okay, and again, I've been talking about Injective getting long here for a good while. But now it's a little bit late on the short term, because it did move up a little bit. Do we get an opportunity here? Do we start breaking below here? This is the thing. So if you're getting on a short-term trade, you need to put a stop loss under here, and any dips into a 50% dips into the previous level, which is down here, anywhere into that level as a back test or anything to hunt liquidity, guys, that's your opportunity to potentially buy the dip. And that's about it. I would wait to get oversold here on the 4-hour. I would wait to see, you know, the momentum potentially get oversold. I would like to see the EMAs down here cross bullish, because right now EMAs are facing down with red histogram bars, as you can see, with a bearish divergence confirmed, and finally maybe getting a bit of follow through to the downside. So we are seeing some bearish action here on the 4-hour. But as I've always been mentioning here, in this market, in a bullish market, in a altcoin season, recoveries are strong, they're quick, and ultimately don't expect them to stay oversold very long, right? We don't stay oversold longer in a bull run. We stay overbought longer in a bull run. So what we have to understand is maybe this is just a quick pullback before we get another bullish response to the upside and we start breaking to the upside. Guys, this is the way it is. The market gets a little bit difficult and different to trade in a bull run, because, you know, the melt ups, the emotions, the euphoric emotions. And guys, we're not even euphoric in this market yet. I'm just throwing that out there, okay, guys? Just be real. We just begun. We didn't even get started here, and we're already defining emotions. Guys, when we go parabolic, you'll truly understand what I mean. Guys, this is the time to have projects like Injective on a watch list and passively accumulate. I would be buying a little bit here on spot, a little bit down here, a little bit down here, and accumulate all into this area between $11 and all the way down to about $7, peppering capital as it comes down on spot. And if you're going to get into trades, make sure that you have your invalidation, like I mentioned, because with leverage and all of that, guys, you got to make sure that you have a proper risk management strategy in place. Guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive favor, slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join that Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. And more importantly, guys, if you want to get involved in the next deep dive process where you guys request and vote on the next deep dive, it's on the Discord. And as I mentioned, it's free. Take care, guys. Have a good one, and see you tonight at 8 p.m. EST, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Take care. Have a good one, and don't forget, buy the dip.